Yeah, it was a good time, honey, under the sky. Yeah, it was a good time, honey, just you and I. Feeling alright.
Hey, welcome to All Wheels Podcast. This is episode 7, and I am Evan, and joined here with Max and Brady. What's up, guys?
How you doing?
Howdy, howdy.
Is
7.
Is this episode 7?
Yeah, well, I counted our intro as episode 1 just to make it
Oh,
simple.
okay. I'll just
So-
I'll adjust the notes to that because
I know
So,
the
yeah.
notes say 5, bro. You gotta.
Yeah.
well,
And they didn't originally count for two-parters either, so
Yeah.
Oh, right,
it's
right.
fine.
the next
yeah,
one I have written is 7.
Yes, so you need to move that up. I'm when we post episodes, everything that gets posted is a new number. So intro was number 1. That's
Gotcha.
why.
I had that as 000 and
Yeah.
or 000s and notes for introductions.
Yeah. Whatever, man. That's why you're the note master. That's fine.
Jeez.
Note.
Just over prepare.
But that's just how I numbered it. So, oh well.
No,
So
I like
yes,
it.
episode
We're going
7.
with it.
And tonight we're doing. We're still on car and truck maintenance. This is part 2.
Yeah.
So we started that last time, but there was too much to talk about, so we split it up into another episode, which is probably
I have
better.
a feeling this probably is going to happen a lot. We'll try to minimize it in the future when we start getting kind of the hang of it. I know it could be a little frustrating as it's not an intentional cliffhanger. But sometimes it's important to spend some time in additional information if and when it does come out. So
I think it's usually worth it if we're splitting it up. It's for a good cause, right?
yeah,
think
and
it's
these
okay.
first ones we're releasing all at the same time anyways. So if it does catch your interest, you don't have to wait. It just is right there.
Well, these will come out. Yeah, so actually, let's update now. So there's all the shows have been recorded before we actually had anything live. So just as a heads up, we're recording this today on March 23rd. So everything else was recorded over the last couple months as we kind of got stuff up and running. We now have our website live, which is at allwheelspodcast.com. The first 5 shows are live to launch the show. Our first 5 episodes are live to launch the show, and they are currently in the Google Podcast Network or search engine, I suppose, and Apple Podcasts and Spotify, though as of today, it's not in the search results yet. I expect in the next couple of days that'll be fixed.
Confirmed at least.
And then a bunch of other smaller ones. Honestly, I don't even remember. We've submitted it everywhere. So
Yeah. So anywhere you
hopefully-
get podcasts, we should be there.
Yeah.
When this one at least comes live.
Yes,
So
exactly.
Yeah, we're out there, so I'm kind of pumped.
Yeah.
The real work now is keeping that schedule for you guys. And I know we've talked offline and everything, and we're all pretty determined to keep a weekly program going for you all.
Yeah, for sure.
And
And we're actually ahead on content, which is awesome. So there's 5 live right now, and we're on number 7. So it's really nice to have a buffer going to. We've planned this much better than we did with our previous show. You know what I mean?
Well,
I guess we've learned something.
with the previous show, Motorbike Mondays, we had to have had a plan
Yeah,
for
there
it to
was-
be going better than a plan when we didn't have one.
There was certainly no plan in place. And, you know, we did pretty well for having 0 plan whatsoever.
Yeah, I think
then,
that was pretty fun too. We got
How many followers did you have at the end of it?
We were hitting like 10,000 streams per episode
10,000
at the end of
yeah,
it.
I guess it's not
Yeah.
followers.
So
And again,
That
I
was
think we
pretty
mentioned
decent.
it in one of the previous episodes. If you're a listener of Motorbike Mondays, reach out and let us know. Just anything really. It'd be cool to see how many repeat offenders make it.
yeah,
make
that would
it
be
here.
rad. So the shows, to embed them in our website. So on our website, you can also, there's a streaming player from our hosting service that hosts the episodes. And I put the video version of the episode on YouTube as well, and it's embedded in the website. And I thought that was cool on our episode 1 or 2 or something. Like, we already have some comments from old Motorbike Mondays listeners, which is pretty
Yeah,
rad.
that was
So
cool.
So
Yeah,
it wasn't even a
definitely.
real launch. I just had posted them on because I do have on the my YouTube channel, there's also hosted all of the old Motorbike Mondays audio is hosted there too, which is kind of cool. People listen to that every now and then. So, so if you want to check that out, that's on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So it's cool, but you can always check allwheelspodcast.com. Our email's there, which is, I think I said it, but if not, contact@allwheelspodcast.com. And you can always get a hold of us through there. And then who knows, maybe eventually we'll start up a Discord or something to, talk with people or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But for now, email us. But we'd love to get feedback from people, whatever you want to hear us talk about, or comments on the dumb stuff that we talk about. And like Max said, like you were saying, talk about the transmission thing.
Yeah,
right?
we touched on this. We touched on it, I think, a week or so ago. But it just came up again, which is to flush or not to flush your transmission. And I just, I posted it on a forum because I have a 2011 Scion XB with 150,000 miles. And so I had posted, should I flush? Should I? And people are like, no. And these are like real hardcore stances. People are like, never, ever flush, only drain 4 or 5 quarts and add that back because of this and this. And some people were just...
and clean the pan kind of thing.
Yeah. And it was just like people, it's just so, it's so opposite the train of thought. And so I hadn't thought about it again. And then I was talking to somebody and he was like, I worked at a dealership for 10 years and we never flushed. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, what is the exactly...
There does not seem to be any middle ground on that topic.
No. I mean, where would the middle ground be?
Right.
Well, okay. I know there are two extremes, but you could just be like,
never take anything out of the transmission.
Well, and the arguments are crazy. Like the stuff that you hear is like your transmission gets used to the thick burning thick fluid. It's like, what?
Back in the day, that was what I heard. Also, plus,
wait, explain that one. How in the world does that make sense? That it gets used to.
Like what gets used to what? It's like it grows new fibers in the metal gears. Like what gets used to
See,
what?
when your transmission's been working so poorly for so long, it's actually worse.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's one of the things we talked about. So if anybody wants to chime in or email us and give us your opinion, and if you feel like making a stance and coming on the show, we'd love to do. We'd love to do an episode on this.
But
topic.
dude, I want to set up a really extreme death match with professional mechanics in both camps, and I want to see them fight it out over. But I want like true believers in both opinions. You know what I mean? Like they got to be committed. So this is
it
really
sounds
serious,
like it. You're
really
kind
serious
of
fight.
either or. Like you kind of have. If it comes out of your mouth, you have to have a strong opinion about it, one way or the other. It seems like because like for all of us, we don't really have an opinion on. It's just something we heard.
Right.
But we would
I'm
never
not
say.
totally committed.
I mean, I definitely lean more towards like. Flush the freaking transmission.
I lean more towards change the fluid and filter. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I've done it and I've had no problems. But I'm the first.
I've also
to admit,
burned a freaking few transmissions before. So,
and I also don't know what I'm talking about a lot of the time. I'm fine just saying, "Hey, I did this and it worked," but I don't think I'm an expert because of that.
Yeah,
I just
definitely.
think like it happened to work that time. I'm okay with that. So who knows? But yeah, I think that would be pretty rad. That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, Max, when you first started mentioning it, I thought I thought at first you were talking about putting the sawdust in the transmission.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
Old 70s car dealers, used car dealers.
Yeah, exactly. Which
Named
was
Sal
talked about.
Vince.
Well, I
buying your
played
first
back a
car
little bit
episode.
of that on the last episode. It was fucking hilarious. That was pretty funny.
I wonder if anybody, like we talked about, how do you get the sawdust?
Nobody alive today has ever done that. That only happened when there was like used Model Ts on the lot. You know?
Exactly. And honestly, they probably benefited it for a bit because it probably created more pressure. So like the torque converter still like put out more pressure for you.
I would believe that back in those days, but also a Model T's
Or they're pumped
brake.
it. Sorry, not the torque converter.
No, I think it was like the
brake
70s,
was like
way
a
after.
leather.
Yeah,
They use
this
like a
was
leather
definitely-
strap on the drive shaft to stop the thing. So like I believe in a car like that, you also put sawdust in it. It's not too far out.
Well, I
Well,
feel
you
like
have
those
to
things,
you have to feed the transmission.
those stories run rampant because then all of a sudden, if you bought a car from a used dealer, someone's like always in the group, oh, those guys all put sawdust in the transmission. It's like, what? How does like every car dealer now is like running around with sawdust?
Actually, wait, that brings up a really good question. Has anybody ever bought a vehicle that was not sawdust, but like
No.
have you ever bought a vehicle
No one has ever. Who even has sawdust these
No,
days?
no. That's not my
No one's
that's not
building
my-
barns anymore.
Okay, that's not my question. I agree. I don't know where you'd get the sawdust. But, no, here's my question. Have you ever bought a vehicle that was totally patched together with something like that? So not the sawdust thing, but like have you bought something total piece of shit, but it was like well hidden with some fucking snake oil trick to like get you to buy it. You know what I mean?
I've
I
only
totally-
seen JB Weld, like it had like a crack in the case or something like that. This
Yeah,
is
I've
transmissions.
Got a
Or
motorcycle with JB Weld on it.
yeah. Oh yeah. Especially that you can tell like by the primary sprocket, if it's JB
Yep,
welded,
yep.
that chain let go and
Yeah, absolutely.
busted the hell out of that case.
Yeah.
Or I've seen like a bunch of RTV like around the dipstick
Yeah.
tube that goes in the trans. That's all I've seen really. That's like, okay, well that needs to be addressed.
I've seen JB Weld on side cases from the shifter, like bike being dropped and shifter punching a hole in the side case. You know,
Yeah,
I've seen that a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only one I fell for that I think was a total like crap fix like that to sell it was my brother and I traded. We had our old Ram. We had a 77 Ram Charger with no
sick.
top on it, bright orange, lifted, super sweet. And then we also had a 69 F250, and they were both looked okay, but they were really piles underneath. But I was clear about that, and we traded both of them for. This was in like 07 for like an 04 or something F150 that we needed to tow our boat, and it seemed okay. It had like 250,000 miles on it, but it seemed okay. And I drove it for a little bit, and then I was on the freeway or something, and one of the calipers fell off of the spindle.
Whoops.
And it fell into, so one bolt ended up falling out, and it fell into the wheel and was just banging around in the rim, right? So I like pull over and I figured out what happened, and I found the bolt because it actually fell out and got wedged in the spindle or something. It was stuck there. And then I took it out, and the bolt was not even the right bolt for it. It was like an inch shorter than it was supposed to be. So it had like two threads
God.
holding the caliper in place. And somebody had clearly lost the original, fell out or whatever. And then they just jammed the wrong bolt in it and like barely caught it.
My, yeah. When it comes to like cosmetics, a cosmetic bolt is not something you want to find.
I know it's
No,
so
it
funny.
was-
People
it
will
was
like
pretty
put a
bad.
sweet purple paint job, spend $8,000, and then have a 90-cent bolt that they can't go and
Yeah.
you know.
Like a
fix
Home
up.
Depot special that's
Yeah.
like grade. Who cares?
Well, I got him back because the Ram Charger caught on fire when he was driving it home.
Oh
So
shit!
The
Man.
it was fine when I had it, I swear. But some wiring in the dash that from a radio that I didn't install, it was in there. Somehow
Oh,
the wiring
sure.
shorted and literally lit on fire.
Oh my god! Did he want his money back?
Man.
Yeah, he did, but then it turned out that the truck was fucked. It also it was in California where back fees, like if a car is unregistered, it just collects fees for being unregistered.
Oh.
So it turned out
After 7
it had-
years, I think it is. It like goes
it wasn't
off
even
the
old
books.
enough to have that. So it had
Oh,
$2,500 in back registration fees on it.
He
The
had
guy
to
had
pay it?
taken it. No, we had to pay it because
Oh.
we got in a big fight about it. Once I found that out, I felt bad about the car catching on fire until I found out about the registration. He had stolen a current registration sticker off of another plate and put it on this one.
So he created a misdemeanor.
Yeah, well, that's why he dropped the fire thing real fast when I
Yeah,
said, "Cool, pay me
exactly.
the $3,000 for registration that I got to pay and fixing the brakes that you trashed."
I
It was a bad
wish,
trade for everybody.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like a
I
good
wish
deal.
I wish you knew me. Wish you knew me then, because I had the gray area
To get
wipe.
around that,
Yeah.
how would you get around the registration on it?
Careful,
it's
is this
not
something
a-
you want to admit out
No,
loud?
it's not. It's
he's
not
gonna
illegal.
blow his cover.
It's not illegal at all. is I believe I haven't had to do this in a very long time. I did this
Transfer
with
it to another
motorcycles.
state and then back.
South Dakota.
Yeah, or Vermont.
I want to
does
say
it
it's so
That makes
their
sense.
DMV's open to the nation. The reason it's like that is for people who are permanently in recreational vehicles who don't have a physical address.
Oh, right.
So you can, say, get a P.O. box somewhere while you're traveling the nation,
right.
but still have a address that
Yeah.
the DMV needs. So you
So
do
could
it
transfer
all through
your
the
title
mail.
there
All through the mail.
and clear the back fees, right? Then transfer it back to California.
Yeah,
and
because it's
there's
like $75. They send you a new license
So
plate,
great
idea.
2-year
That's a really good
registration for like. When I did it was like $75,
nice.
and then you wait a month, then you transfer it back into California system.
Yeah.
They see, oh, new entry, transfer, $35 fee, transfer fee, whatever it is.
I never thought about
Yeah.
that when I was in California.
Oh, and it's
My-
a great negotiation point for.
Well, it seems so weird now being in Colorado that doesn't exist because like you
There's
keep
no
the
back
license plate.
registration.
Yeah.
There's no back fees. There's none of that
Mhm.
stuff. But California is
Yeah.
a totally different system.
Yeah, it's not going to get
here.
any better in the current or future years either. So.
No, and I think the registration costs are probably getting crazy.
Yeah, well,
on all
I
sorts
just
of
drive
stuff.
shitty cars that's not worth anything. So it's
That's
Yeah,
how you
that's
save
the
money.
key.
terrible.
Tell you what,
That's the key.
I'm the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah,
I'm fine driving old stuff. Yeah, I do too.
mm-hmm.
That's not a problem
Yeah.
until it breaks at a really bad time. But
Mhm. Honestly, I don't think I've ever paid more than like the DMV minimum for registration ever in my life.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Well,
you
I
buy a
keep
car-
pushing the limits on my new. Every time I buy a bike, I keep trying to push the limits on how little I can say I paid for it. On the
Yeah,
time,
exactly.
just to see where the line is. And so far, I haven't
Yeah.
found it.
No, because
Well, honestly, like you can,
$18 an hour.
you can still say it was I bought it for $1. Because
I've-
if they
I've
have any
never-
questions, it's just it was a good friend of mine, and he
Right.
he's such a good friend or a family member that
Yeah,
he
Yeah.
would
it's-
only accept $1.
Or it's a pile of parts. Like, how do they know what it is? You could be
Yeah.
buying a trailer full of
Mhm.
parts and you're titling the
Right.
frame, and you're like, they don't ever care.
Yeah,
They, being
yeah.
them.
Well, yeah.
it depends on which DMV in California you go to. Honestly,
The DMVs in California were pretty horrendous. I always kept AAA there just for the DMV services because it was
100%.
totally
But
worth the
since-
cost just for that.
Since you moved, AAA no longer is allowed to do like vehicle inspections. So
Inspections.
so if it's like an off the books, I dealt with a lot of like off the record.
You have to inspect cars there now?
No. So I'm saying this is for like old motorcycles who have not been registered for so long that it's just off of their record. They don't.
Oh, do you have
any
to do like a
record.
VIN check or something to bring
Exactly.
it to title it again?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So AAA used to do that, and they would just like, yep, I see
Yeah, it
it
looks
there, freaking sweet. But now it has to be CHP.
Oh, got it. They're
But
probably pickier.
with like, because they'll say like, well, I don't see any turn signals on here.
Yeah.
And so they made me like throw them back on,
Oh, God,
and then I
that's
went
so
back.
lame.
I went back over. So now when I did it, it's just I would just bring the frame, and if it had
that's
if
smart.
the vent, or I'm sorry, if the pink had the engine vent on it, which only some states had that.
Yeah.
Then I would
Yeah.
just bring the motor like in the back of the truck or the case if I'm like in the middle
That's
of
smart.
rebuilding it.
I think the key is to be like, sir, this is already completely unsafe. Adding turn signals is not going to make it any safer.
Exactly.
That's the best way to do it.
But yeah, well, maybe we'll have a podcast on how to cheat the California
How to get around,
DMV.
yeah, how to get around all of your
Yeah.
registration costs. That's funny.
But
All right. Well, what about what's in the shop? What have you been working on? Wait. Let me guess. You've been working on a. Let's see. What would be like super rad? You've been working on a. No. Wait. I'm gonna guess. You're gonna be working on the Corvette from Corvette Summer.
no, I already mentioned that in another earlier podcast that I don't.
Damn it.
Don't really care for Corvettes that much.
Max, we need to watch Corvette Summer.
Oh my God, I
again
love
sometime.
that.
By the way, just to throw
It's
that
one of
out
my
there.
favorite lines forever is that he jumps in the car and they're going across the desert. And he's like, doesn't this car go any faster? He's like, hey, man, it's not how fast you get there. It's how you look while you're getting there. They're just cruising like 30 miles an hour in these lowriders. It's so great.
Oh,
That's
man.
awesome.
Corvette Summer. That's
no,
Corvette is
so-
just amazing.
So ridiculous.
So much shit all over it.
So badass. Okay,
I
what
don't know.
real
When
car
was
are you working
when was it? I mean, I've probably worked on a few things since the last one. This has probably been like the longest stretch.
You were working on the
since the
55
beginning.
last time.
on? Yeah, the truck, right?
Oh, okay.
The oil blew out the side.
Oh no.
Oh, it's.
What happened?
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, but
Oh,
you're
okay.
Oh, just your
cable.
video went out.
Yeah. You know, it's. I just got a new computer, so hold on one second.
I haven't seen that before. What's the cable picture?
It's the.
I don't know.
Like,
It's like 2022 Apple apparently.
is it telling you to charge?
No. I think what is going on.
Brady, you look good.
It is.
Yeah, it's
it's a
good look for you.
major improvement. I understand.
Yeah.
So, audio listeners, my video just cut out. Which, if it's all right with you guys, I'm not quite sure how to fix it right now.
It doesn't matter. Just keep
We'll
going.
just keep going. So, yeah, it's been probably the longest in a while, at least for us. In between podcasts, so at least for a while.
It's been a little bit. I don't remember what you were working on last time, though.
Well,
now
Max
you're
mentioned the. Am I
Now he's a
back?
gear. No. No.
It's like,
You're
like
not
tarot,
back, but,
it's like
but
tarot
your
cards
picture.
or whatever. He's gonna be the devil soon, and then a sunshine.
All right.
These are like the pictures. Remember in Ghostbusters when he's like doing the test with the chick and like holding up
Right,
cards to like
it's a
add-
couple of squiggly lines.
Yeah, that's what this makes me think of. I wish we could
I'm
shock.
I'm seeing a
wish we could shock
gear
Brady for
drive.
me. I think it's a gear.
It's like an Apple cord. Let's do that.
Does it keep changing?
We're gonna.
No, it just changed once. I don't know. You went from a cord to a gear. I don't know.
Brady, now it's like a mountain scene and some cats.
Yeah.
All right.
got some
So I still
kittens
got
playing.
some setting up to do on this computer still. As long as you can still hear me. I mean, that's,
Yeah, we hear
Your
you fine.
audio's fine. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
So I was working on the 55. Did I mention that there? So that 55 Chevy pickup, it's bagged, 350 swap, 350 trans. It's pretty much like just a beat up truck where you go in there and just try to break the law.
I think sounds awesome.
Oh, it's so sweet. I don't remember if I mentioned it just started running real poorly. Tracked down. This was actually a while ago. That I won't get into that, but I found an intake manifold leak.
Oh.
So
yeah, that would do it.
went through the manifold, just kind of new gaskets, and did a little RTV wall on the valley. Yeah, there it is.
So rad.
So I think
Yeah,
that
I
was
figured I would show our listeners how badass the things you get to
That's
work
awesome.
on.
yeah. So that was I think soon after I fixed the intake leak.
That's killer.
And then I had already unknowingly kind of started to retune it because there's also a new Holley 600 vacuum secondary carb that I put on it too. Because the old
Right.
Edelbrock was just old. It was leaking or pulling vacuum from the throttle valve seal on the primaries.
Yeah.
So replaced that, and so I was tuning it, and then I was like, okay, well maybe I didn't get a good tune on it, so I kind of like band-aided the intake leak with the tune, and so when I fixed that, it started running rough again. And so I started to retune it essentially, and that's when I took that photo when I was still tuning it.
How do you get an intake leak like that? Like, how many miles were on the motor? Was it really old?
It doesn't so again, there's not a working odometer on this truck, but it's not necessarily how many miles are on it, it's how hard are these miles, and all of them are just straight up domestic abuse miles.
Domestic
Since
abuse
new.
miles.
So
That's awesome.
I mean, I don't know. I've never experienced blowing an intake manifold seal.
Yeah, I haven't either.
And the truck really has like relatively low miles, or at least the motor and trans do. I didn't build it, but a pretty reputable builder, engine builder built it. So I have very few doubts, if any, that it was something that he got wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it just gets beat all day long, which is what the truck is for. So, I mean...
well, whatever. It said it. Intake manifold gasket's not really a big deal.
So finish that up. And then... if that's where I left off. I worked on a few other things, but just kind of minor things. And then today I worked on replacing the ignition switch barrel or cylinder for the 53 LS swap Suburban that I built.
Oh, yeah, right on. I remember seeing a picture of that. That's cool.
The keys went missing. And so it's still, I maintain, like on the inside, I wanted to, actually inside and outside, wanted to keep it as original as possible. Mm-hmm. So you're more, not so quite like resto mod, where like resto mods are now, where they like redo like modern interior and stuff, but it's all original material or interior, and outside styling is all original. Just all the guts are brand new.
I really don't prefer that at all when they do like a modern kind of looking interior in an old car.
Yeah, which I understand why people do that, because that's where you live, that's your office, but it doesn't...
if you're actually driving the shit out of the car, but I feel like a lot of times they're not being driven that much.
From what I've seen, it's less likely you put miles on a modern, like on a vehicle that has modern interior than one that has original. I mean, not necessarily, but I mean, it's maybe, I don't know. I'm being very
well. They just don't seem
general.
to match the car very well, I think.
I agree. Even when it's done really tastefully. I mean, although like what's his name? Jonathan at Icon does it beautifully.
Icon does cool.
Perfectly.
Yeah. There's definitely nice cars like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times that reminds me of like, 80s, 90s chrome Boyd Coddington wheel street rods. You know what I mean? Which is just like
I
the
still bring
most
up Boyd Coddington.
offensive thing to ever happen to old cars that I've ever seen.
It's probably once or every other month I'll bring up Boyd Coddington in a joke somehow. Like I said, rest in peace. But just that era of like old guys roll like hot rods.
Well, that's
so bad.
Max, did you enjoy those magazines that I brought you when you were stuck at home?
Funny. I just got rid of those. I was like, I cannot look at these anymore.
I have this case of like hundreds. This old guy I knew gave me of 80s and 90s, like early 80s to early 90s. What are the magazines called? Like Super Street Rod or something?
It's those
Super
all.
Street.
And it
Super
is
Street
the
was
like.
Actually, I think, an import.
No, it's not Super Street. It is entirely dedicated to like T-bucket chrome blasted street rods.
Everything
and
shaved.
I have hundreds
everything French
of these,
God.
and they're all like teal with like pink stripes and all this crazy stuff. And
yeah,
I brought
everything.
I
Is
brought
chrome.
Max a
All
bunch
the
of them.
undercarriage. It's ridiculous.
He
Oh
was stuck at
yeah,
home
that's right.
with his leg. I brought him a bunch of these, and I'm like, "Hey man, here you go. Pick out a new hot rod."
Yeah. Never seen so many chrome tie rod ends and
They're so bad.
sway
Yeah.
bars. And it's
Oh god,
incredible.
it's just the ugliest car.
And like
Well, and
vintage,
there's
quick
there was, like-
change, like rear ends that are just like chromed out that are definitely not even being used.
That you absolutely need to drive to a car show 5 miles from your house.
yeah.
You can find
Oh,
those
and the
cars now
mirrors.
for like
You
10
guys
grand.
remember the mirrors at car shows? I'm sure they still happen, of course.
Oh,
but-
underneath the car, so you
Yeah.
can see the chrome oil pan.
yeah.
Oh my
Drive
God.
over the mirrors.
or the wheels have been taken off and they were put on little like
Yeah, stands or whatever,
triangulated
so you can
stands on
see.
the wheels.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you can
so
see under.
stupid.
Yeah.
Because I just had to see that brake caliper, you know,
Hey,
to,
Chrome
know-
brake
yeah.
to see the
caliper.
chrome.
I'm glad they did.
Dude.
I can appreciate the work that went into that. I do, but I do not like the car.
100. Yeah,
I know.
100%.
But I certainly appreciate how much effort it took to get a car that clean and all
Yeah.
that. Like, not my thing. That's for sure.
There's like two of those trains or thought or whatever, but you can buy those cars for pennies on the dollar now.
Yeah.
And same with the huge like early 2000s choppers that
Yeah,
people
big
were-
wheel, big wheel
huge big
choppers.
wheel choppers that have 156-inch motors and 6-speed Baker, and you can get those for like $8,000.
Yeah.
$5,000.
Yeah. And they're hardtailed with like,
Dude,
3 inches of travel in the front, and they're
Yeah.
horrendous and
19 feet long,
oh, so ugly.
green, like all like green and pink and
Well, kind of like the bike, the Billy Idol bike.
the
you
Billy
bought.
Idol bike. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever tell? You
Yeah.
got to tell Brady about that.
What was that? What's it called?
It was who was that guy?
It's a sick
dude.
bike. It's actually a really sweet bike.
What was the
but-
guy's name? He looked just like Billy Idol.
Billy, yeah. Dude,
Oh
I have
my
pictures
God!
of it.
What
Hold on, I'll tell you in a second.
was it? What was it
Exile.
called? Exile Choppers. Yeah, Brady, have you heard of Exile Choppers?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
look at
that
this
would
thing up.
be,
There you go.
Australian. Or no, he's a British
Yeah,
guy.
a British guy.
Yeah.
Look at that
Yeah.
thing.
Max bought this thing for like nothing.
No
Yeah, these
way.
people.
So this
they
was like
posted-
biker build-off days.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I
yeah.
bought
On
it just like a
Discovery.
couple of years ago.
No
And
way.
this
Yeah,
wound
this
up.
was like
in-
three years ago. Maybe.
Yeah, this thing wound up
He
in
always
Windsor,
did like
Colorado.
fat tire, matte black finish.
Yes, hidden cables and everything.
all hidden.
Yeah.
cables.
It was a
li-
nicely done
Yeah,
bike.
I actually he was like one of the only guys I liked like during
Here's a
that
better
era
picture.
of shows.
What was the model called? I'm looking at his website. I'm trying to remember. What was that model?
Well, it
I
was
don't
all
know,
janky.
But I
like-
remember a quote he said on like the show. It was like, "Yeah, we
Oh,
bust
it was-
these out or whatever."
it was the Pure Sex Dragster.
pure
wasn't it?
sex dragster.
That's. I'm looking at his website. That's literally what it's called.
So I got
that's
this thing
beautiful.
for nothing, and it needed a battery and I cleaned the carb or something, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do with this thing? It had like a foot clutch and
I remember
tank shift.
thinking you were insane for buying
Yeah.
that bike,
and then
but you did very well on it.
and then
So
I
it's
wound
okay.
up calling. What's the guy's name? Not Billy Idol.
I always called him Billy Idol.
I know.
It's
He was
what was
really
his
nice.
name?
He answered all
Russell-
emails.
Russell, right?
Russell, yeah, Russell
Russell
Mitchell.
Mitchell.
And I told him, I was like, oh, I got this bike of yours out here in Windsor, Colorado. And he was like, no, it's got to be a knockoff. So I sent him a bunch of pictures, and he was like, no shit. I remember that bike. I remember building that bike for the guy. Sent him the kit.
That's really
and
cool.
he sold for like $50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, well, I don't really want this bike. And he's like, well, I'll just be middleman. I'll find you a buyer. And he found
I
me
don't
a
want
buyer.
this piece of shit.
No, it's not even that. It was a sweet bike, but it was like a 131-inch motor.
Well,
Like,
you
it
rode
just-
it like twice, and you
Oh,
were just
it
like,
beat
dude,
your kidneys. And
it's too
back.
much.
It was too much for me. It wasn't my
Didn't
style
you say
bike.
it had like a automatic clutch in it, right?
Yeah,
Like
it has
Recluse
a,
style
like-
clutch in it.
yeah,
I don't
what's
know
that
what you call
called?
it on a Harley, but
Well, they do them on dirt bikes all the time. A Recluse.
yeah. But I don't know
Yes.
what there's a name for the Harley brand type.
Yeah. I had all the
It was-
paperwork
it
came
was
with it, but
funny.
yeah, as soon as you drop below like 1,000 RPMs, it just went into neutral.
But yeah,
So you could pull up to the
That's-
light and then just shift
right.
back down to first, and
Just like a semi-automatic or something like.
yeah,
yeah.
It was an
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, it
the
was an interesting bike.
CB750As. did
Yeah, it has a
something similar.
centrifugal clutch thing in it that disengages
Yeah.
Yeah.
drive
Yeah.
when it's low RPM.
But it was
All right.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
he
giving
found
up
somebody
on-
and. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
On what?
Giving up on getting my video back.
That's
I've
fine.
been trying this whole time. I'm sorry.
If you
guys.
could just
Don't worry
change your
about it.
card to like a couple of
Yeah,
squiggly
can you
lines.
change it? I've been looking at the gear for a while. Can you change
Yeah,
it?
let me see if I can get the plug back.
No, it doesn't matter. It's fine.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, that thing was sweet.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, okay, what were we talking about? What have you been working on?
Who, me?
Max, yeah. What
You
you
working
been-
on that EV?
Nothing.
EV, right? Charging
Yeah,
up?
yeah. I worked on.
Hey, what happened last weekend when you left my house? Did you find a charging station?
Yep, it works great. It's
Yeah?
you swipe your card. It's $1 for an hour,
Oh, nice.
and after 2 hours, I'm fully charged. So for $2, I'm back up to 100 miles. And
So what'd you do? You just jerked off there for 2 hours in the
I
parking
mean,
lot?
kinda. I mean, do I
mean-
have to say it out loud?
Well, I
No.
mean, yeah, you don't
No,
have to.
I prefer.
judging.
No,
it doesn't
there's
matter.
actually one. There's
Your
one,
car, I know.
There's one at my at the place I work out at the city center pool and whatever. And so I just go there and
nice.
plug in and go work out and do some lifting and then go to the pool and work on my leg and come back out and then it's all charged. $2.
Dude, that's
it was
cool.
$1.76, I think.
I gotta say that car's way cooler. I expected to roast you.
Yeah,
to
I was
the ground
waiting
for that
for it.
thing, and
so
I
haven't
like
heard
it.
any of this.
I
so
like it.
Evan, you saw it.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm on board. It's cool.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
like the Fiat
like it.
500s are kind of like street legal go karts to begin with.
well, it just looks kind of cool. Like I was thinking like a smart car or something, but like it's small, but it looks cool, and it's got the rad Abarth or whatever stripes on
Yeah.
the side, and
Yeah.
like it's got these cool black with red trim rims, and like I don't know. I like it. The whole thing looked cool. I
the weirdest
actually
thing is,
can't
like,
make fun of it.
I mean,
It's a cool car.
I've been a modest motorhead since I was 16 years old, and here I am 46, and it's just strange to like. There's no oil changes. You don't go to the gas station. It's
Yeah.
all different. It's a
Yeah.
whole
you
new.
don't do anything except just wait for it to self-destruct.
Maybe like it's got.
Yeah,
it's
but-
it's 8 years old. It's got 46,000 miles. I only have
Right.
lost like 2% of the battery. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
you mentioned that.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for like shit around town, I'm sure it's perfect.
And it friggin' rips. By the way, when you punch it, it's like,
Yeah, I want to drive that soon. I
you
bet
gotta
that's
go rip
fast.
it, dude. It's hilarious. The car
Yeah.
weighs nothing. It's so silly.
Yeah. All right.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. so
Well-
I'm not. That's all I'm working on is where to charge my EV, which is totally.
All right, that counts.
That's gonna be a
That counts.
weekly in the shop. Is
I
you
know.
know.
Well,
I thought
pretty
I could
soon-
make it to this, but I had to bring out the
Yep.
jumper, the jumper cable.
Pretty soon
Yeah,
I'll
he's
be
got a
picking up
sweet Airhead
that
coming
picking up
up.
that old Airhead, and then I'll have something to talk about.
Nice.
Well, speaking of airheads, I've been tearing down the R90 finally to like I want to get that thing going pretty soon.
Yeah.
And today I found I was kind of bummed. I pulled the exhaust off of it because I need to reseal the motor and do the push rod tube seals and stuff. And so I pulled the exhaust off, and the mufflers are rusted to death underneath, totally trashed. They're not even savable. So
Well,
got to order a few more parts.
sponsored
for that
by
bad boy.
EME, but Matt.
Yeah,
Matt
it's
sells
called
brand new
Euromoto.
Matt sells.
No, I
repots.
already looked at them. I'm going to get them all from him.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, that's all I'm working on right now is the R90. Oh, and the Triumph. I guess I had to tear the Triumph T140 down because it was smoking so
Yeah,
so
you
bad.
figure that out.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Well, Brady and I talked the other night about it for a while, and he looked at a bunch of the pictures, and I mean, it's trashed. The cylinder's trashed, like absolutely demolished, and it was leaking oil into the cylinder. We were talking about where that was coming from, and the cylinder's wrecked, and yeah, and it was probably my fault when I rebuilt it. I'm just not totally sure what I did wrong.
Is it easy for you to pull up a photo and throw it on, say, video watchers?
Yeah, sure.
Just do that first or second photo you sent me in the Discord.
The one
So
with
you
the
already
oil
got
in
it
it?
torn down.
Yeah,
again?
where you could see
Yeah.
the
Oh man.
the water contamination.
Yeah,
also.
look at this. Let me share my window. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, here's what the cylinder looks like.
Mhm.
They're both bad. This is the worst of the two. This is the right cylinder.
Yeah. Did you? Oh, so I'm sorry. You already, when we talked, you already showed your Triumph guy this. And I mean, you don't have to be a Triumph guy to see it, but the
Well, you can
the
tell
black
it's
parts, like
screwed,
that's from
but-
prior sitting for so long. That's like contamination from water. Because I've only seen water damage do stuff
Yeah.
like that on cylinders.
It's just weird. There was that you couldn't see that before. I do suspect that pitting was there, but like there was no oil burned into it. Now,
Exactly.
now
Yeah.
it's completely full of like carbon, I guess. But
My
Yeah, see,
thought, it's
pretty bad.
the cylinder's oval, or at least ovaled, or egged, whatever people call it. I don't know, one or the other.
What do you think
Yeah,
that
that's
you
my
did when
guess,
you
too.
rebuilt it that could have caused?
No,
Well,
it was there before. Is what I
Brady
think.
thinks the cylinder was ovaled,
Oh.
like was not really round, and then I suspect that because of that, I didn't gap the rings correctly, so I had really inconsistent like ring pressure sealing against the cylinder. It's just a theory. I don't know. The
Well,
valve guides
just-
are all also leaking oil down from the top, so that was part of it, I think.
No,
Yikes.
I think it's blow by. I don't think the valve.
Oh, that's
seats-
right. You thought it was oil coming up from past
Yeah.
a compression ring or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think it was valve seats leaking oil. That's really like that amount. That's
Well, no,
That's
they are
obvious.
leaking. I've got the pictures. I know they're leaking, but they may not be
Oh,
leaking that
gotcha.
amount. They're for sure leaking 100%. Maybe they're not providing all of that oil in the cylinder, but they're
Yeah.
doing some of it.
well. I
So,
think
yeah,
a
it's-
machine
it's,
shop, like I mentioned.
It's screwed. But yeah, Billy's got a guy in back home, I think in Tennessee, that he recommended to me. So I may just ship stuff to him because Billy says the guy's awesome and will fix it up. So
By the way, I am
So we'll see.
enjoying this so much better now that no one can see me.
You're just
what are
like-
you doing over
You're
there
just
with
like
no video?
pounding whiskey back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna get very interesting pretty soon.
All right. Well, we've killed 40 minutes. Let's talk about our topic.
Oh my
here.
gosh, we're
I
gonna have to do
agree.
3-part series.
Well,
No,
we don't
no,
have
no,
too
no.
much left
No,
of this
well,
topic,
let's
so I
crush
think
through
it's
this,
fine.
yeah.
I think
But-
we gave ourselves some allowance as far as the bullshit.
No, it's fine. We're
Yeah.
good. So we were talking about car and truck maintenance. We're going to continue that.
By the way, how close are you guys from Netherland, Colorado?
Really
an
close.
hour,
Yeah.
hour and a half, maybe.
It's an hour.
Why?
Oh, I got a good buddy who lives there and operates out of there.
That was a squirrel moment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not
So,
far.
have you guys ever been to Reykjavik?
You just realized you had a buddy in Netherlands?
No, I knew he was in Colorado. I just didn't know. I don't know Colorado.
Dude, it's an hour away. It's a great ride too.
Yeah, it
really
sure
great
is.
ride.
Yeah. Well, he rides too. I want to get you guys together.
Well, how about you come out and hang out, and we'll go right over there.
He's getting married, so that's.
I'm not
likely.
concerned with him. I'm saying, why don't you come out here and let's go do some riding?
No,
Should Evan and
no,
I-
you guys
should Evan
aren't.
and I
You
go to
guys
his
aren't
wedding?
worth making. No, you guys aren't worth the trip making out.
Oh, cool. He'll talk to us online.
I've got
actually.
to. I've got to be out there for a better reason.
Okay, then go see your buddy. We'll meet you in that.
All right.
You know what? Screw this. Start a podcast with him. I'm out of here.
Do you know what? I should have called him first.
Yeah, he should have been your first call. All right, so here's where we left off. We were talking about transfer case and differential, which I think is what spawned the whole sawdust argument.
Yep.
And then, okay, so now we're on to check belts and hoses, which is certainly good advice. I wonder, since this came up as part of the topic, has anybody ever actually had a belt break? Like a
Yeah.
serpentine
Oh,
belt? Have you had one break
absolutely.
like while driving?
Well, not serpentine, but I've had
Or okay, not serpentine, any type of belt, a water pump belt, whatever.
water pump. I have alternator belts.
Hey, I lost an
I don't think
alternator belt when I was.
I've never had one break before.
But I was a
Uh,
kid. Yeah, when my
well-
old Jeep, it was probably fucking 20 years old or 30 years old, and I didn't.
Yeah.
Do, I think I might have sprayed WD-40 on it because it was whining at me, and I, I think it was 17 or something.
Spray WD-40. Isn't
I
that
didn't
like
have
the
any
opposite
money.
Yeah,
of
that
what
would
you
be-
said?
I know. Stupid ass.
No, okay, so I don't know. Like I like found the belt and it was like split in half or sheared, but it's definitely like frayed and like separated.
Yeah,
to where
I've
the
had
point
found
where
them cracked
it's
before.
like it stretched so much because there's very few like structural or rigidity fibers left that keep it shape. But yeah, I've never had one like split in half, but I've definitely had more than a few belts fail on me.
Yeah.
Now, and these are all older stuff, like because usually there's multiple belts on the older engines. On newer vehicles, I don't know what year. I mean, I'm guessing like maybe 90s.
Early 90s, probably.
Yeah, that's the
90s.
beginning of the serpentine belt.
Yeah.
One belt to rule
I've
them
never
all.
had a cert belt just straight up.
I feel like
fail
you
on me.
really would have to push one of those so far to get to the point where it would break. You know,
Yeah.
I know it's possible, but like, damn,
Yeah.
it would have to be old.
Yeah, in the old days, you could swap a belt out. There was like $4 for the part, one bolt to loosen something. It was so easy.
And honestly, like if that's why you carry multiple belts, or
Yep.
you should at least on older vehicles, just because age, there could have been like someone installed the pulley wrong or whatever it may be, or nicked it to where it causes the belt to fail sooner than it should.
Yeah.
So carrying belts is like,
It rocks,
especially on VWs, like I mean it was
Yeah.
almost one belt, but that you need to worry about that I always kept like from my first driving experience, like on the road, was always keep like a Ginny belt and a fan belt. But
That's probably a good idea. I don't keep one in the Falcon. I drive that a lot.
Yeah.
But they're
I keep
relatively
one-
new, I guess.
I always keep one in my Volkswagen, in my Vanagon.
yeah,
It's nice to have.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, even a serpentine belt, generally you can replace easily with, you just have to, like a lot of the belt tensioners have a a ratchet fitment in them, you know,
Exactly.
like for a 3/8 or something. And you can,
you just
all you have to
tension
do
on
is,
it.
yeah, it's super simple. But again, they don't fail that often. But you should certainly check it. I mean, that's good advice. Spin it over, check it in a bunch of spots for cracks or tears or anything. And even then, they'll hold on for a while. But yeah, if they let go, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
also
think
it'd be a good idea to check to see if your motor specifically is an interference motor, because this is usually on like an overhead cam design motor. If that timing chain busts, it's going to just launch your valves into the cylinder or pistons. The interference.
So,
design
but
motor.
is that okay? That's not common though, to have an external serpentine belt that is responsible
this
for
isn't
the cams,
yeah,
right? That's
no,
an
no,
internal
no.
belt.
Exactly. I may have let off topic there a little bit.
I mean, it's
but-
not the same thing as an accessory drive belt on the outside of the motor.
Yeah, that's
typically,
yeah.
if they're responsible for cam timing, they're internal to a
yeah.
front cover or something on the motor.
behind
behind the water pump or
your
whatever.
Yeah.
front
Maybe there's
accessories.
exceptions to that. I feel like that's mostly on like import stuff, which I'm not familiar with. So
Yeah.
Absolutely is.
I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
I'm just that's the extent of my knowledge.
Possibly on the new Coyote motors, but I've never even really
Yeah.
touched one before. So
Yeah. I think along the lines with your belt, we have belts, hoses, and vacuum lines. It's like all those things that are rubber. If you're picking up a car from the 80s, it's just a really good chance that they become hot and cracked, and they can you can split. So it's just good to check all of the rubber components in your engine compartment when you pick it up.
Well, you certainly nobody has ever preemptively changed a vacuum line.
no, definitely not. No,
Nope.
definitely not.
I would recommend you be the change that you want to see. And you change those out.
Oh my god!
Well, and
Because-
the car will definitely, without a doubt, run
Yeah.
with a split
Yeah, how about that?
vacuum line.
Well, okay. I have a perfect story for this. We drove my old TJ Jeep down to Telluride for 4th of July. Like this was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, you put your wife in there, didn't you?
Yeah, Whitney and I drove to Telluride to meet my parents, and the AC kept working, but the vent control, which on the TJ is a vacuum switch that switches all the vents with vacuum hoses, stopped working, and we lost total control of the vent control. So we had AC, and it's summer. It's like 4th of July weekend, blazing hot. And the vents just start cycling like crazy, like wherever they want to go, floor, defroster, anywhere but dash. and it's like 100 degrees outside. And she was so pissed at me. And Dad and I tore the Jeep apart there, and we could not figure out where. I assumed it was a vacuum line because I knew the switch was a vacuum switch from replacing it because the knob had broken before. And then never found it. Like a month later, I was back home, and I tore the entire engine bay apart looking for it, and I finally found the hose, and it was it was like a 1/2-inch crack in a vacuum line, and that's all it took, and it stopped controlling the vent control correctly.
Yeah, and
so
usually,
had I replaced those,
they usually crack at the like at the nipple of the so like the on each end of it.
This one didn't. It was in the middle of the hose, but
probably where
I have
certainly saw the most heat. Like
it actually was where it ran over the valve cover. It was on a 4-liter Jeep motor, and it kind of crossed over the top of the valve cover, and it had a split underneath that was very hard to see. But yeah, that's what it was.
In the world of Volkswagens, gas lines are in that list because they are known to crack and split and then start spraying gasoline all over your motor and catch your van again on fire.
Damn.
It happens like fairly often. And so one of the things they say like along this list is no matter when it was, like if you buy a van again, an older one, just replace all the fuel lines so you know that they're new and supple and not going to crack and split. Yeah, that's smart.
Did you do that before that trip you took
I
in
did
it?
I did it. When I first got the van, I just didn't know anything about them, and so I got on some forums and asked, like, what should I do? And that's what everybody said. Number one, do your fuel lines. So I did it right away, and it was great. It's an easy job. Took like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And
yeah. Right on. Well, we have on here any leaks, which... Yeah, that's a good point. Check for leaks. What do we say about that? Yeah, I mean,
how many of your motorcycles have leaks, Evan?
All of them, every single one.
Well, I think that's why. I think that's the
not the XR.
I think that's why there's the only question mark at the end. Is
I did notice any leaks.
Like how serious? How serious is that leak?
Well, it depends on the age of the car and all, like some leaks might be reasonable.
Right, if it's a valve cover leak or a rear main, are very different jobs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if this is maintenance, it's I don't know. I forgot how I even set up these notes. If it was like your first car, so you're getting to know it, but this is just general.
No, I think it's a really good point. I mean,
how severe is the leak and how important is it? So if it's what I just experienced, and I think I talked about in the last episode, was when it was like the old school analog pressure switch to the gauge in that 55 Chevy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was that plastic line that sends analog pressure to the gauge, and that just split. Like that's a serious leak that needs to be addressed. But
that's
like
critical.
you guys mentioned, like is it a valve cover leak? Is it even some like rear mains or front main leaks that?
Well, you have to weigh
addressed?
the severity of the repair too, versus like how much fluid it's actually leaking.
But also, like you have to look at like budget and time wise on these things too. Yeah. So, is it
think of a rear main replacement at a shop is going to be thousands of dollars, right?
I mean, you're getting really intrusive, and depending on vehicle too, how easy it is. If it's a 1-piece, 2-piece rear main like that, there's a huge split in cost there. But yeah, I mean, there's also additives that you can try first. I've
Stop
only.
leak.
Yeah, have you ever?
Honestly,
I'm interested.
Never-
I'm
never had
intrigued
it
you
work.
said that. Have you actually had good luck with any of this?
Okay,
I've used
so this
stop leak
is-
for a head gasket before, and it ruined the car.
Well,
And the radiator and everything. It was horrendous.
So I don't know if you guys have noticed, like in the episode idea list that is running, I do have like leak seal, like gasket seal, like additives in that list.
Oh, okay.
It's something we could talk about in the future.
We
It
gotta
may
just do like a
likely never be
debunking
one.
myths.
Yeah, it was kind of like
Yeah.
like where
But you'll always
should you
find.
trust
How do
it?
you debunk them? You're gonna find the guy who says, "Oh yeah, save my car." I didn't
Well,
have
one
to
of
do
them when I
anything
was a
except pour it
kid,
in.
it was like a
But-
little bunch of copper flakes, and you put it in your radiator, and it like
Yeah.
it just flowed through
Exactly.
and stuck to anything going out.
Yes, but it
But it's
also
under
plugs up-
like
plugs
certain
up your
certain
radiator.
criteria or the criteria as well.
But I used liquid head gasket in my which should tip you off right away that it's not gonna work.
It's not
I
good.
used it in my 55 Pontiac Star Chief that had a horrendous head gasket leak, and I poured that in there, and then I ran it up to the Good Guys show in Del Mar
You
from,
probably blew up your
from
motor.
Mission Bay. I did.
Yeah.
100%.
So what
Absolutely
happened
blew
there
up
is that
So
your
sad.
head gasket leak was water and oil was leaking, so the coolant was getting into the oil as well. But
Yeah, well,
mean,
the
granted-
instructions didn't specify.
of course not. They want to
Did
make
you,
the
did you spray some
sale.
WD-40 on it?
They promised me a new motor in a can.
Okay, so this conversation right now is why I want to have a podcast on sealers, stop leaks in general.
Love
when
it.
I
Love
was
it.
Yeah,
Let's
I'd
definitely
like
do
to.
it. Let's definitely. That would be
Where-
an awesome one.
where this started, what the comment I started with was for like seals. So like oil seals, where like adding the Lucas, it's pretty much just like 100% petroleum. And
Yeah.
so like if a car or truck or motor has been sitting for a while, those seals can tend to like kind of shrink up or harden. So the stop leak stuff, at least, it goes in and then kind of swells them. So you could have some luck, but if it's like a minimal, if you catch it early.
Yeah.
I would
And I've
never
had
recommend
success
that
with
shit.
it one time and now honestly the first time I used it was on my Silverado some years back. And it was a rear main seal.
The Lucas oil stuff.
Yeah. And it'll even
I
say
like-
it's like
I like that Lucas stuff.
100%.
I've had good luck with that.
Yeah.
I'm
but,
always surprised at how thick that is when you like actually open it up
I
and pour it.
know.
It's just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You can't put this in 1030. Like what?
And why
It's
do
like it's like honey.
I know.
There's no way.
and why,
It is like-
why do they have a tapered spout on it? Like, couldn't
I
they
know
just-
you have to cut it all the way off to get it.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm sold because every time you walk into AutoZone, they have that goddamn little spinner thing on the counter.
It's it.
And
You're like, look, it doesn't ever.
yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When
Yeah.
you spin standard oil
Yeah.
versus the Lucas treatment, I mean, you are
Just like,
sold
I'm
Yeah.
on one. Where is
because
it?
it is so goddamn smooth. You're just
Exactly.
you're just sitting there spinning with one hand.
Oh, it feels so good too.
It sells
feels
itself.
so good.
Wait, have you
It's
seen
so
the new
satisfying.
ones? Have you seen the new one? Maybe it's not new, but the ball joints. They have them at Napa's. They did for
what?
a while. Yeah.
Lucas oil filled ball joint.
No, it's not Lucas. It's actual
play with the
Napa
ball
product.
joints?
Like Napa's, whoever makes their ball joints.
You just pour Lucas oil all over the ball joint.
Yeah, what
No,
do you-
they
I
have
don't
like
know what you're talking
handles. They have handles on like OEM, aftermarket, and
To, like,
Napa,
move the ball joint
premium
around or
gold
something?
jeans. Yeah, and then you can feel like how smooth they are. But yeah,
I mean, it's a ball joint. Like if it spins, like okay.
exactly.
All right, we've
But-
we've touched on two
But
bullet
that
points.
same premise like works is with the gear oil. And
No,
the
I know,
gears.
I know.
And
I'm
then
sold. Put
there's
put that shit on the counter, and I will play with it. Like 100%.
Let's do it.
do you know, I only saw those at Pet Boys. I don't know. If
No,
they-
I've seen them at O'Reilly's had one. In fact, I was just in there just blasting one around the other day at O'Reilly's. They definitely have them. Yeah. No, I'm sold. Well, that brings us into suspension.
Yeah.
Speaking of ball joints.
Oh, Jesus, wept.
No more drinking. No more drinking on the show.
Yeah.
We're gonna have part 3 of car and truck maintenance.
No, we're not.
No, it's rocket.
Let's talk about suspension.
All right.
So,
Well, we did cover a lot of the points on here in buying your first vehicle, which if you haven't listened to, maybe jump back
Right.
to.
yeah, a lot of that stuff lines up with maintenance for sure.
Yeah.
So suspension is a good point because like this is my favorite thing to do on the crappy old cars I buy because I always feel like it's
the best
as long as it runs fine.
improvement.
Seriously, it's the number one
Yeah.
thing you
Yeah.
do that makes it drive so much better,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just like, shit, that was money really well spent.
Yeah.
Especially when you can go to like Rock Auto or eBay, or I've used 1A Auto.
1A
before
Auto
for-
is awesome.
1A is
man.
awesome,
Yeah.
dude,
That's
and you
so
can get
great.
Well, they have
really
a lot
good
of like
parts for a good price.
like video tutorials on YouTube
Yes.
too.
Mhm.
That,
Tons.
Like really,
Those guys
just-
are excellent.
Yeah.
Sponsored by 1A Auto.
Hey,
Yeah, they're
you
great.
gotta stop doing that, Max.
Oh,
So
okay,
we
sorry.
might have a competitor in the future that wants to sponsor us.
That's true. Yeah, you might sandbag us with that.
Damn it.
Well, shocks are a big deal. Like I know I wanted to lift my F1 or not lift, but like level my F-150 a little bit. And
I'm glad you
that-
had corrected to level.
Yeah, it
not
was
lift.
leveled.
Yeah.
and it had the truck has no miles on it. Like I said, like 28,000 miles now, I think. And it had the original struts on the front and or coilovers or whatever you want to call them. And they were fine. Like they certainly weren't worn out or anything, but they were just so soft. And I put in a set of rough country leveling struts or shocks or whatever. And you know, it's not a hard swap, but like just the difference was awesome in driving and everything. Cause then it was actually rode the way I wanted it to. And you know, anyways, stuff like that can make a huge difference, and it's not necessarily expensive or
Yeah.
very difficult.
And one of the ways you
shocks
can tell if
are
people
even
don't
easier.
realize the shocks are going to be your rebound. So,
Right.
you know, your springs take up the compression, and then
Your
you can
shocks,
tell if
like-
your shocks are blown because your car will bounce and bounce and bounce.
Yeah.
So if your car is doing that,
Well,
then you
and
need
they
to
can also
replace.
just be soft. Like
Right.
That's what annoyed me about the truck. They were not blown at all. They damped fine. It's just they were so soft that it was like it rode to like a Cadillac, which is
Yeah.
not what I want out of a truck. I wanted it to ride like a truck. So putting different shocks on it, whatever. They weren't bad. It's just my point is it's not necessarily an expensive thing, and it can have a massive improvement in your driving, you know, experience or whatever.
Well, yeah, even down to just upgrading to like a urethane bushing on
Yeah,
say
that's a big
everything.
deal.
Like it is, and usually when you're buying like say usually upgraded bushings, it'll have like a Rockwell unit
the
that they or
hardness or whatever.
yeah, and so it can kind of, and usually there's descriptions on how it changes from OEM.
Yeah.
And
I
that and
remember
all that
going-
really adapts to is communication from the steering wheel when we're talking about suspension parts. Is you have a more
Yeah.
direct line from what your suspension is doing in the steering wheel, from say the firmness of all the firmness of those bushings and connections.
The polyurethane bushings are, I mean, I think it depends on the vehicle, but I had that, remember that Camaro Max, that black one?
Yes.
The Z28?
Yep.
So it was an 81 Z28, and it was just, everything was so worn out, and I did all the suspension on it, and I put polyurethane bushings in the control arms and in the whole front clip, like the whole front subframe to the chassis or to the body or whatever, did urethane body mounts. It was unbelievable.
Huge
The
difference,
difference in that car. It went from being a slop ball to just like everything was tight. It was the
Yeah.
craziest difference I've ever seen.
Well, and the
in
thing
a
is
car.
too is
It certainly mattered.
your suspension is almost a direct link of how confident you get from driving that vehicle. If
Yeah.
you've got a real sloppy suspension, say whether it be tune, like you said your Jeep was, doesn't
Yeah.
inspire a lot of confidence. But if you start to kind of firm some stuff up, like even a little bit, it gives you that much more confidence because you have that feeling of control.
Yeah.
Because you have
It
a
makes all the
stronger
difference.
link.
It's huge.
Yeah.
I'm just picky about that stuff, I feel like, and it's not that hard to replace. So I do it probably way before it's time, but because you get a lot more miles before it's like unsafe. But I just hate sloppy suspension and steering and stuff. It annoys the crap out of me.
Yeah.
So
And
I mean,
just play in a wheel is one thing. I mean, that has more to do with
I hate that.
steering boxes. You more find them in steering boxes than say rack and pinions. But yeah, that play in the steering wheel is when you can move it. Say if you're, what was it, 9? Say you're, I don't know, either end. Like if you have like inches of play in the steering wheel before it actually does something.
Yeah.
One, it can be a safety issue because you can't precisely correct. But also like that just feel of confidence in that vehicle.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, when you have inches to move the wheel before it does
Before
something,
it does
it's
something.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Falcon's up for that next. It's the steering box is gone. The dude I bought it from replaced all new suspension and steering. Everything underneath it's brand new, except he reused the old steering box. And it's so slopped out. It's just done. There's like nothing left in it.
Well, that
And I've even adjusted the little adjuster thing on top of the steering box. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
I know it's not always the best idea, but I've tightened that up a couple of times.
I did that on the 41 Master Deluxe.
Well, it doesn't last. That's how I know
Yeah,
it's gone.
exactly.
It makes a difference for about 10 miles, and then it's right back to sloppy, which tells me that the gears, because you're like taking up the gap between two gears that mesh, right?
Yeah,
I think when you adjust that, you're like adjusting the difference between them, and that tells me they're just worn as shit because it works for a little bit and then it's just gone again.
Yeah. Well, I adjusted it on the 41, but I've put 0 inches on the car since I did that whole front end rebuild.
Yeah.
So,
Well, see if it lasts. Hopefully it does. If the box is in decent shape, it will.
Mm-hmm.
I think mine is just completely worn out. It's original to the car.
yeah.
And I suspect the odometer's rolled over on the actual chassis of the steering
so you've
box.
got
So it
some miles.
probably has 100 and I forget what it's at now, 150 or something on it. It's done. So anyways, but yeah, you have stuff like that. And let's see what else. The grease points is a good point. I think on like a lot of newer cars, a lot of the suspension stuff doesn't always have grease fittings in it. But if it does,
because they're all sealed.
Grease guns are not expensive and they're worth investing in, especially if you work on anything older. It's pretty nice to have that to be able to grease everything.
Honestly,
on the car.
the one that I have that I use primarily, and it comes with different attachments on like the flex hose, was maybe like $30 on Amazon. Before, like, say 10, 15 years ago, it'd be like $120 set. Is that good? We're not going to get into that, but it's very inexpensive to get a really good grease gun and more cost effective to get a tube of like say general grease that slips into it.
100%. I did buy a air pneumatic grease gun from Harbor Freight one time because I thought it would be great.
Okay.
It didn't work at all. I finally returned it. I wasted so much time on it. Didn't work at all. Like nothing. And I have my grandpa's old grease gun from the 50s. It's a hand pump one, and it's like it just is bulletproof.
So
it leaks all over the place, but it works
you're gonna
perfectly.
have some leak, but like a rag or napkin or your fingers just wipes it off. But what I like about the manual pump ones is that you can feel like when it's about done, because the pressure starts to increase,
that's true,
and you have a better feel at least of when you're getting there. Aside from like when you start seeing it push out, depending on on what you're actually greasing, but.
Well, and I learned it also matters. If you're gonna grease stuff, especially on an old car or whatever, you have to grease all sorts of shit. My old shoebox Fords had like 8,000 grease fittings, and the service manual says grease them every 1,000 miles. I think it's ridiculous. And so I would do them a lot because it was the best thing to keep it driving really well. But if you live somewhere with cold winters, do all of that maintenance when it's warm, because laying on the ground and then trying to pump like rock hard frozen grease into the car is horrible. It's like impossible.
And a lot of those grease points on older vehicles is they're expecting some of that old grease to push out also. And old grease in itself usually hardens, and so when it's really cold, it's gonna push back at least.
Yeah, not a good idea. Well, what else? Let's see. So wiper blades is a good point. Especially I found like here with, actual winters, like I feel like I replaced them like every 2 years in California. Now
I'm going on 6 years right now.
I'm like twice a year. Replacing wiper blades.
Yeah. When they get in the snow in the winter, if they're just
you wreck them so fast.
Yeah, and then you can't clear your windshield. It's a drag.
Yeah, and every time you run them and it's icy, it just like wrecks all the rubber on them, and but that's a great maintenance thing. That's something it's really weird because I would have never mentioned that. If we wrote these notes in California, I never would have thought about it. It's it was 6 years I'd replace them.
I wrote these
now
notes
it's twice a year
in California, so it was likely we had like a random like full-on drench.
You had a rainstorm for once. Yeah. No, it's a good point though.
Which
now
brought that to
I care
my
about
attention.
it more than I used to.
Yeah. And also like I'm finding the value in having like a clear windshield these days. Cause usually most of the cars that I drove, if they were older, I would just like remove all of the vacuum operated wiper motors to begin with. So I didn't have like I'd rely on Rain-X for the most part.
Yeah. But you can do that there. It's usually not that big of a deal.
Exactly. Now there's what is it? Ceramic coating, which I'm a huge fan of.
That you put on the glass and it keeps.
So same
lets
with
the water flow off?
Same with like protective coating for paint. You put the same product on your windshield, and it works way better. Way better.
I've never done that.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah, no, but windshield wipers are worthwhile. Something I never cared about before, and now like here it's like critical. So that's a good point.
I just saw the secondary tab like when it comes close to season. So if you're in a state or location that is has a season of rain, like Southern California, definitely think about that before the season comes. Because when you're stuck and then it's like, oh, sweet. Like
you don't care until it matters.
Half of the blade is working.
Are really annoyed you didn't do it.
Yeah.
I found like it's not worth ordering on Rock Auto just for a set of blades, but if you're ordering anything else, they're so freaking cheap on Rock Auto, like name brand wiper blades, that it's certainly worth dumping in anytime you order on there.
I usually get the Bosch.
So you can get them for like $5.
Bosch blades.
Yeah, I think that's what I use too. They're like $15 a pair or something.
Yeah, and they're like the new style, like the flex style or whatever.
Yeah. They seem to hold up pretty well. They don't fall apart real fast. I've used cheaper ones here in the winter, and they're just not worth it because they get wrecked so quick.
Yeah, I just find that no matter what I spend, they just get trashed in the winter. So I just stop.
Yeah, they all do.
$40 wiper blades and get the $8.
Yeah, they're never. Not worth it. They're not going to last. Yeah.
Well, I have found that my babe's car gets stored in the garage every day. Mine's outside.
They probably last longer then, right?
That's what I'm getting to.
I think I noticed when I had cars that were parked outside back home, that they didn't last as long, and I always thought it was like the air quality there like eats the rubber or something. I don't know if
it's
that's.
just
I don't have any
sun.
scientific proof, but I always thought the air was shit and it would eat the rubber away. That sounds like something my dad would have told me at some point. Now that I think about it, I don't know. Well, whatever. I don't have any scientific proof. But okay, let's keep going through our list here. Power steering. You had power steering, which kind of check power steering, which falls in line with leaks for sure. Power steering is a pretty shitty thing to lose if you run into that situation. So
Yeah, it's not
certainly worth checking.
It's not a you pull over to the side of the road scenario.
No, you can keep going. It's just
but
makes it a
I
little
mean,
harder.
you can also burn out a pump if
oh yeah,
even
you
if
run
it's
it
low.
Right.
Because you can overspin it, and then those bearings aren't designed to.
Right.
So if it gets low, like a power steering fluid level gets low, you can overspin it because it's aerated. And
I feel like they let you know pretty quick, right? Like you can usually hear a pump whining or something,
yeah,
right? If that's
usually
the case.
on like max turning, like lock to lock, you'll hear like that whine.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been in the situation many times where I just maybe I'll check that or add a little bit and then never do it. But you can
yeah.
well, I guess I've destroyed a few pumps in my days is what I'm talking about.
I've just had lots of cars that leaked power steering fluid, so I got pretty used to checking them on stuff. Now, if I ever check the oil on something, I just check it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But on newer stuff,
you're
you
better.
know-
You're better at your vehicles than I am on my own.
no, I just have. I'm used to crappy old cars that leak stuff. So if I'm going to check one fluid, I check them all because it's not that hard.
Well, usually my older vehicles are manual steering.
Yeah.
Or at least converted to. In preference of just greater feel, I guess.
Yeah. I like it. The Falcon doesn't have power steering, and now that I'm used to it, tight turning in a parking lot or something sucks. Otherwise, I prefer it.
Exactly.
I'm going to actually put in, I researched and found an electric power steering column for my Vanagon.
Oh, that would be sweet.
It's super sweet, and it's got a dial.
That's
so
a
you
great
can,
idea.
You can go to 0, and there's no power steering, and then you just turn it and dial it up. So if you're stuck in trying to parallel park or get out of a tight spot, you can just
and you
wind
just flip
up
a switch or
it's a dial, so it's 1 to 10.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty rad.
That's
actually.
actually
That'd
really
be
cool.
super cool.
It's super sweet. So I'll be talking about that in my garage one of these days.
That's
Nice.
actually awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and there's no fluid to change or nothing.
Do you notice Max is going all electric?
I know, right?
You see this? He's like slowly converting his whole life, dude.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
take my
know.
motor out of the
To
van.
electric.
I mean, I was going to have this conversation off air, but I think we got to rethink,
I
Kevin.
think we need
Next
to talk
week,
about it.
next week,
We need
Max
to
is out
rethink
of
who we brought
All Wheels
in.
podcast. Max, what are you
And
working on? Well, I got a new 110 plug in my garage.
Well,
So I can
in my
plug in
shop,
all my electric bicycles.
in my shop next week, I'm going to be looking for a new host.
Yeah, you better watch out. Next week, the All Electrons podcast shows up.
That's it. I'm gonna go buy some oil and just get some oil.
Max, you know you're not going anywhere. I can't live my life without you anymore, and I
That's
just
it.
met
Yeah.
you a few months ago.
We're soul
That's
brothers.
nice, true.
All right,
true.
last note, tires.
All right, what about tires? Yeah, tires are kind of a big deal, especially
Yep.
if you don't pay any attention to them for a really long time,
Yeah.
which a lot of people
And-
do, I think.
Yeah.
And the cost is just getting, if you're buying a truck versus a tiny
Yeah.
little car like mine, like, dude, it's insane. You can be $1,500 into a set of tires if
Yeah.
you're buying them for.
I didn't even I put slightly bigger tires on the F-150, and I think it was like $1,100-$1,200
Yeah.
for all
Yeah.
4 tires. It was not cheap at all.
Yeah, so you got to consider that if you're. Well, I guess we're not doing pre-buy anymore. We're just doing regular maintenance, but
Yeah, but the point is, you don't want to replace them until you have to,
Yeah.
So certainly check the
Exactly.
pressure on them. If you see weird wear show up on them, that could relate to a suspension or steering
and
issue or something.
rotate, man. Every
But yeah,
3,000
rotating's
miles,
easy.
it'll save.
I
you.
found, see, I don't remember this like always being a thing, but like those dudes at Les Schwab tire, which I've used a bunch, are awesome, and they do free rotations. They don't even care if you bought the tires there.
I know. So does Discount. Discount
And
tires
I'm
the
like-
same way.
Yeah, I was just.
I
Gonna
feel like
say
that didn't used to be a thing. They used to only rotate them if you had bought the tires there, but places
So-
don't seem to do that anymore. So
Well, discount.
they don't care.
Discount also patches tires if it's in the spot that can
Yep.
be patched. They
Yep.
do that for free also. It used to
it's
be
really-
Yeah.
it used to be if you bought tires from them, but not anymore. So it
Somebody
probably
changed that, and then
Mhm.
everybody did it to match, and it's
Exactly.
super rad.
Yeah.
It's super
Because
great.
now, oh, it's awesome. You don't have
Yeah.
to pay a thing. You just
Mhm.
I know they
so
swap
I
my.
always use Les Schwab's awesome. Those guys are super rad.
Yeah.
They fixed multiple tires for me for free, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
a
they
big
swap
fan.
my winter tires over to summer tires. It's great. It's a nice service to have
Well, and I realize
For
I'll
free?
go back to them.
for free.
Max?
Yep.
No
yeah,
way.
they're killer
Wow, that's,
because they just want
that's
your
awesome.
business the next time you buy tires. So if
Yeah.
Yeah.
they'll like do whatever, and I've gone back and probably not necessarily gotten the cheapest tire ever or the best deal ever, but like they're cool and they
Yeah.
do stuff for free. So they've
Well,
saved me
because-
enough money. I'm like, okay.
Just because I buy
I'll
and
come
sell
back.
so many cars, oftentimes I just need tires, and I have 2 daughters that needed tires, so they look up my number, and it's just like, how many, and
Yeah.
they're just always the best price, so I just wind up.
Well, I'm
being a
wondering how
discount.
that because I've never heard of them before. I wonder how
It's
they
the same
do
thing
just
in
like a
it's
walk-in.
called like American
Oh, big-
Tire.
Big O, American Tire Discount. They're all owned by the same.
Yeah, in California it's called American Tire. I think it's the same thing.
I don't know. We
Yes.
have Evans and Discount.
There's Big
here.
O's in San Diego for sure.
San Diego, but not.
Oh,
not
maybe
where I'm
not
at.
up north.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was on El Cajon Boulevard. I remember. I've been there.
Yeah.
Well,
remember
I
that
went
too,
to-
but they're- I don't know if
To
they're that
Discount, I
long.
think, is the one on College, right, Max?
Yep.
Isn't that Discount at College before Harmony? That's where I ended up having to buy the tires for the Ford because they were the only ones that had the right size. But anyways, yeah, they were cool too. So it's not that hard, and lots of places will do it for free. So it's certainly worth keeping up on because
Yep.
you're going to save yourself a lot of money if you just get
Mm-hmm.
them rotated.
Well, I'm finding too now, like oil change places are like offering like tire change or rotation options
Wow.
for like $100.
That's terrible.
Well, this
really?
is
Yeah,
yeah,
I
this is
I'm not paying
for
for that.
like the Valvoline like quick change like stations they have.
Oh, dude, I wouldn't trust those guys to open the door, let alone change the oil or rotate tires.
Honestly, like I on my babe's car, like I'll do that more so. It just the convenience of it is so much.
I've had, so the last time I went to one of those places was remember that Purple Dragon Camaro, Max, the
yes,
92?
loved it.
So I took that to, it was Firestone, but there was the Firestone that was still like pretty much a quick change oil
Yep,
place.
yep.
And I had them change the oil on it, and those bastards left the oil fill cap off of the valve cover, and it like puked a bunch of oil out of there, and they underfilled it a ton. It was like total BS. And I called them about it when I got it home, and I noticed, and I was like, dude, are you kidding me? This is like all you guys do, and you didn't even do it right. And they just made all these excuses.
Oh, they're always
you know?
like, oh well, it was on there when you left.
It
and
was
you did it."
ridiculous.
Yep. How can we
So
know?
I was like, that was it. I'm never going back to one of
Yeah.
those places again.
Yeah, it's good.
Well-
it's just not worth it.
and not in their defense, because I mean, honestly, I would expect that. I wouldn't take an older car like less than 10 years. I'd say.
It was a 92 Camaro with a 305 in it. It's not like an exotic motor, you know. They must have changed oil on 10 billion of them.
No, like you know, in the 90s things were different from now, and those quote unquote, you can't see me in the video.
No, I'm just
techs.
looking at a gear. I'm not like, this gear's talking to me, and I don't even. I don't think a 92 Camaro is a difficult car to change the oil on.
No, not to someone who is like fresh out of high school or still in. Oh, maybe yes.
Yeah, probably.
But for
It
like
was
a
total
newer
BS.
car, what they've been trained as, which my babe's car is a newer car.
Wait,
it's
you're-
like clockwork.
You're making the argument that they could do it correctly on the newer car, but not on the 30-year-old car.
Yeah.
Why? What is different? So I'm interested.
Well,
why
because
do you say
the
that? What is
theory,
different
the
about it?
theory's different. Like you don't have like you don't know like okay, you got to pull the valve cover breather off to fill it.
Oh, because it didn't
And,
have a huge yellow cap on top that had an oil symbol on it to fill from.
honestly, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
No, you honestly might be right. It's not so stupid.
It's exactly
So stupidly
it's
simple
not
that.
right in your face when you're in the pit.
Oh my God, it's so ridiculous. You honestly are probably right. It just pisses me off that that's true.
Yeah, I know.
It's so ridiculous.
So
Well, yeah,
and
anyways,
at
I
that
don't go to
point
those guys
too is
anymore.
like, who knows what oil pan, like they probably don't have any even in their system. Like if you have a deeper oil sump or oil pan, it requires more oil.
Yeah.
And
I
these
guess, I don't
older stuff too, because like in the
But it's not even that old, We're not talking about a
30 years
50s
old
era
is
car.
like
We're talking about a 90s
almost
era.
almost double. Oh
Well, I know it's old, but it's not that old.
yeah, well that's
Right?
where if you're buying an older vehicle,
I mean, if
You
that's
just
old,
have
then I'm
to-
old, and that seems like, come on.
I mean, I'm younger than
No.
you. I've already submitted to the fact that I'm old.
I know. I should just accept it. No, you're probably right.
And the people who are buying older vehicles say just, I don't know. I mean, what is it? Like classic or vintage is it vintage or classic is 25 years. That's been
Yeah.
like the automotive
Yeah.
like standard. And then vintage
Right.
is 35 or something.
Right.
I mean, they're working on, say, these like in and out work for 6 months at a time, like techs in these quick
Yeah.
oil change places.
No, I know you're right. It's true. It's just a bummer. but
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I
I'm sure
mean,
it's
I
right.
would, I guess, semi-trust going into these quick places. But honestly, like half the time, the oil is cheaper, or the change is cheaper than I could buy the oil for.
Well, that's the only reason I even have anybody else do it is because I'm going to spend almost the same amount I am buying it myself. So I might as well. Now I just go to these dudes, Christian Brothers near here, that have been excellent. They're like the best repair shop I've ever found. Super, super great.
Yeah, and this could be regional too, where they
Yeah.
recognized an issue with, say, some of these. It could even come down to the general manager of that place, or not
Yeah.
general, but manager of it.
Right.
And a lot of complaints. So I'll do $20, whatever, dollar cheaper, but provide them the server they were wanting.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't use them anymore. I'm over it. I had a bad experience.
Well, this being said, I did the oil change on my babe's car last, which was like a week ago.
At one of those places, or you did it?
I did it. Yeah.
Oh,
But prior
yeah, well,
to the life we've had this car.
I would trust you doing it over any of those guys.
Not if you know how I do my oil filter.
Yeah, you
Oh
don't
wait,
change
no,
it.
no, no.
You don't change the
You don't
filter.
change the oil filter. That's Never mind.
We never
Never mind. I already know that.
No, I did the I did the oil filter, and I actually bought the tool to
he did
spin
it all right.
spin the oil filter off.
Nice. All right. Well, I think we
Yeah.
better wrap this up.
Let's
We're
wrap it
pushing
up.
like an hour 30 here.
Yeah. Oh
Well-
wait. If you don't mind, I'll make it quick.
Yeah, what else do you have?
Continue on the tires. So, just how to indicate. I know in the past episodes we've talked about the tire date or manufacturer date,
Yeah.
but to read tires or tread life, it's like it's still been around for a long time. The tread life indicator.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys are seeing the same notes that I'm looking at.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
I think we should at least mention this because everyone's
describe
heard the penny test.
Yeah.
If not everyone, but I mean, if you've heard it, I'd say like half the people know what the penny test is.
Yeah.
So
What is it? It's down to his head or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I've heard it, but I don't know exactly what the
Yeah,
measurement
just
is.
rattle it off since some
point
people don't
proven.
know.
Yeah, it's real quick. So tread life, penny, Abraham Lincoln's head down. If it hits or is what is it? below his head, good for dry. And then for wet weather, a quarter. So George Washington's head, if it's in his head, it's good for wet. So if it's below, say, George Washington's head or at the level, probably not good.
Because that's thicker?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's better for wet weather. Yeah.
But it kind of goes to shit now because usually there are indicator lines built into the rubber.
Into the rubber, yeah.
So if you get to an indicator line, it'll only have one.
Right.
Where the treads get flush every so often. With tread, that means this is no longer deemed a safe tire for the wet. Anything after that, I mean, you should probably change them at that point anyways.
I would think so.
But, I'm not going to boost a cheap ass on tires because that is a major safety issue that no one should gamble.
Right. No, that's a good point.
But yeah, that was the last point, and hopefully the penny quarter explanation made sense.
Yeah.
If anything,
well, I like the wet weather part because I haven't heard that before with the quarter, but that makes sense.
You mean
that's a good point?
Oh,
I know the penny thing. I just never heard say compare it to a quarter for wet weather. But that makes sense.
So I only found that out because I looked up the penny test because it was something in my mind that I always knew. But I found the quarter test in the process. So I learned something while doing these notes.
All right, nice. I'm glad you learned something.
Oh, that's good. See, that's what I'm remembering about Motorbike Monday is that I learning
all sorts of stuff while trying to put together notes.
Yeah, exactly. I learned how you should do something rather than how I've been doing it.
All right, well let's wrap this up. So that was car and truck maintenance. I think that's the end of that topic. And I don't know what we're doing next time, but we'll see.
Do.
Oh wait, I do. We're talking about forced induction.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Turbos
blower versus turbo.
This is gonna be interesting because I don't know much. So.
I don't know much. I'm gonna.
I've spent the last 10 years wanting to turbocharge something at least, or force induct something, and I'm doing it currently. So it's
nice.
gonna be a fun one for me.
This will be cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So now that you know general maintenance, now
put a turbocharger on. That makes sense.
We're gonna go straight. We're
just gonna dive right in.
There, yeah.
Exactly.
No, good point.
But I think after the force induction series, we should do first project car because that's something I'm actually more excited about.
Yeah, same.
And then
that'd be cool.
And also once we take care of that, we can get into everything.
Well, maybe we'll try and find a guest or somebody to come on and talk to us too. Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll figure it out soon. But thanks for joining us. Check out allwheelspodcast.com for any info in our shows and search for it on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else. Hopefully it's there.
Anywhere you can find podcasts.
If you use something and you can't find it, shoot us an email and let us know so I can get it submitted because there's probably plenty of podcast networks and stuff I don't know about.
Absolutely.
And also our Instagram hasn't quite been populated, but hopefully when this lives.
Oh yeah, we need to get that going. What is the name of it?
It's All Wheels Podcast.
Okay, well, that's easy to remember. Mm-hmm. So check that out.
That really rings a bell.
That sounds familiar. My Instagram, I think, is Fading Fast SD. I'm pretty sure.
I can confirm.
Yeah.
Okay, mine is Maximus Moto.
Maximus Moto. So you can check those out for anything.
Drop liver.
What do you got?
Over here.
All Wheels. There it is. All Wheels Production.
No.
Not that one?
That was a...
that was the old one, I think.
Yeah. That was a working title.
Yeah.
That's what came up when I typed in All Wheels.
Yeah, I think there's another one, All Wheels Podcast.
Yeah,
if you search
this will be changed.
The whole name.
This will be changed by the time they hear it.
Cool.
I'm freaking
Well, check
ugly
it out. And
for me.
oh yeah, Brady's I'm freaking ugly. And shoot us an email with anything you got. Let us know what you think, or any topics or any comments or whatever. We'd love to hear it. And yeah, keep in touch. So we'll be back next time with our next topic. Thanks for checking this out.
All right. Check y'all
All right,
later.
see ya.